From WisPolitics in Madison, you're listening to Capital Chats.
This is Capital Chats, brought to you by Spectrum. I'm Joshua Irvin, a reporter with WisPolitics. This week, I spoke to Brandy Tollefson, a Pere School Board member running as a Democrat in Assembly District 88, in what's expected to be a closely contested election against State Representative Ben Franklin. I spoke to Brandy about what drove her to run, what she thinks the legislature can do for public schools and affordability, and what she's doing to distinguish herself from her Republican opponent. I hope you enjoy.
Brandy, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, talk to me about what made you want to run for the Assembly in De Pere.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I would say the biggest factor for me is the fact that I'm on the school board and really involved in the community, able to talk to a lot of community members and stakeholders. And I get to see what concerns people have. We have a lot of fantastic teachers and administrators working super hard to educate our kids, and yet the state government is continuing to underfund our schools and make it a situation where we are continuing to have to go to referendum to ask those stakeholders and community members to continue to increase their own property taxes in order to properly fund our schools. And I just know that we can be doing better in Madison to make sure that every kid in the state is getting a fantastic education and that our teachers and administrators have the resources they need to continue what they're doing. I also have 3 kids, so they are also a motivation for me. I have a daughter that is about to go into high school, a son who is in the UW system going to college, so we understand what it's like to try and afford that higher education, and then a son who is in the trades and is working, and I just want to make sure that Wisconsin continues to be a fantastic place to live and work for those kids that choose not to go through the 4-year system, and that they have an opportunity for affordable housing and a way to put down roots themselves with good paying jobs and, protections here in Wisconsin that make them want to stay.
Gotcha. And as you said, public school funding is a big part of your campaign. I take it you'd like to see the legislature be allocating a lot more money to public schools. Is there a particular goal you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one that is on everybody's mind right now is getting that special education funding up to an equitable percentage. We need to be reimbursing at a much higher level than where we're currently at. And we need to be following through on those promises of what the reimbursement's going to be. A lot of schools this last year, the school boards were able to set their budget based off of the promise of a reimbursement at 42%. And the fact that that's coming in below that is affecting people now on a budget that they had to do before the final numbers were coming out. And that makes it really difficult for school boards and school districts to really manage their funds and make decisions on hiring and classroom sizes and everything else when the funds just aren't coming in that were promised. So I think the basic of just meeting the promises of the special education is what the legislature should be doing right now. Going forward, I think we really need to look at the current system is benchmarked to 1993, what the school districts were spending at that time. And that is just no longer working. As we know, school districts have increased in size, decreased in size, changed, consolidated. There's just been changes across the board, whether you're looking at urban or rural school districts. And we need to really go through and look at, is our funding system really working for the way schools are today?
You mentioned meeting special education targets. There was a bill that was taken up in special session that would have increased special education funding and also increased, general school aids in exchange for property tax relief and income tax rebates. That legislation ended up failing in the Senate. Do you think that the Democratic lawmakers who opposed that legislation should have backed it? Would you like to have seen that pass?
I would like to see the legislature go back right now and carve out just the special education portion. Like I said, I would like to see them fulfill their promise of getting us up to that 42 and 45% in the special education funding, because that shouldn't even be a question at this point. It was something that was already promised. It is not being fulfilled. So let's use that surplus money to come in and fund that for sure. The rest of the bill, there are reasons why I agree that it wasn't a long-term financially sound bill. Um, we need to be looking at a long-term solution. We need to be looking at what can school boards and communities rely on after this year, but in continuing budgets going forward. And the way that that bill is using surplus funds that are one-time funds is not something that is long-term and sustainable. So whether or not that passes right now, it's still not going to fix the roots of the problem in the long term. But right now, school districts can use those funds that were promised for special education. And to be clear, the relief in property taxes, the increase in special in school aid was not going to give any more dollars to school. So right now, what I would like to see as a school board member is those dollars, which was only that special education piece, to go ahead and pass, give that relief to the school boards and the school districts right now.
Gotcha. I do want to ask, there was, you wouldn't be open to some component of property tax relief? I know that, in De Pere that you guys had some operational and capital referendums back in 24.
Yes.
Those substantially increased property taxes. I guess, are you concerned about that?
Oh, I would absolutely love to see property tax relief. But again, it needs to be something that can be sustainable, where we're not seeing a roller coaster of mill rates, where we have one year where we get that relief and then the next year those funds are gone, but something that we can actually use, that there is an income source coming in to offset that the additional funds that are coming to this from the state to help relieve those property taxes. So again, it's just more the long-term sustainability of it, but I absolutely believe that the state can be doing more to relieve property tax increases that the schools have had to rely on through referendum.
Gotcha. You talked a lot about affordability earlier.
Mhm.
You mentioned higher education costs, housing. Are there specific policy proposals you would advance as a lawmaker to address those costs in housing and higher ed or in other areas of concern?
Yeah, I think one bill that I know that the Democrats have had written already and ready to go that has not made it to the floor is free healthy lunches for all. That is something that would help families to reduce their grocery bills. It would help reduce the stigma for those kids who are sitting there on free and reduced lunch, or sitting there not eating because their families can't afford to put money in their lunch accounts. I have been knocking doors since January. I have been out talking to people in the community, and any relief in their grocery costs right now in those grocery bills for families is going to be a huge help. If we're able to locally source more for our schools, we can help farms and small businesses in the area to help bring in those meals. It's kind of a win-win for all. That is one thing that I definitely would support day one. Um, I also think that we need to be looking at reducing prescription drug costs and expanding access to healthcare. The amount that people are paying now in healthcare premiums has just gone up and up. I personally have a son who has type 1 diabetes, so my family really understands healthcare costs and the financial impact that has. Um, it's something that we need to address, and whatever we can be doing at the state level to be holding insurance companies accountable to make sure they're paying what they should be paying, and reducing prescription costs is going to be a top priority for me.
Gotcha. Now you're running against a freshman incumbent, Representative Ben Franklin.
Mhm.
I think with your campaign materials, you sought to tie him to the affordability crisis, to recent Republican-led financial decisions. What's your pitch to voters? What makes you a preferable alternative to someone like Representative Franklin?
I think the biggest thing that The biggest difference that I feel like I stand out is just my involvement in our community. I volunteer regularly. I take being on the school board extremely serious. I know that it's just not my opinion that matters when I'm sitting in that room making decisions, but it's the opinion of all of the stakeholders, whether that's administrators, teachers, or just community members whose property taxes are affected by the decisions that we make at the school level. And so I make sure that I'm accessible to the community. I get out and I go to the festivals. I go to the things that are happening around town. I volunteer at everything that the school holds that I can to make sure that I am in contact and talking to as many parents and community members as possible so that I get that feedback and I am approachable and accessible to people so that they feel like they have a say as well. And I would do the same on the assembly, make sure that I am out in the community, meeting with people, meeting with stakeholders, hearing from people, and taking that feedback because I'm representing them. It's not just what I think, but I need to gather all of the information and make sure that the community feels heard in Madison. And I can be their conduit for getting their voices heard down there.
Okay. Brandy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Brandy, to Spectrum, and to you, the listener. I'm Joshua Irvin with Wiz Politics, and this has been Capital Chats.